Good afternoon, everybody. Myself, Ekta Saigal Malhotra. We are back again at the Motherhood Club Talk Show. Today, we have a mother who is 32 years old and she's still learning. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the topic of our discussion today. She is Dr. Nina Malik Moitra, a gold medalist, an orthodontist, a very passionate mother, a passionate teacher to all those children who she fosters. Teaching is her passion after dentistry. She loves to dress up. As you can see, she's looking stunning in her beautiful yellow sari. Nina also, I would say, has a lot of experience, not only being a mother, but an orthodontist. So, Dr. Nina, welcome to our show. And 32 years old mother and still learning. And I'm sure a lot of people must be wondering that, how is Dr. Nina just 32 years old? Of course, she looks 18, but Dr. Nina is going to throw light on this topic. And also, I would like you to please introduce yourself, talk a little about the work that you do as an orthodontist, and how do you manage to keep that beautiful smile? So, over to you, Dr. Nina.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Ekta, for your kind words. It's a pleasure to come here. And like I was telling you, that, this topic has made me go back 32 years. A mother is born when the child is born. Before that, it's only a woman or maybe a girl. The day you produce a child, you become a mother. So from that day onwards, your journey starts. That is why my daughter is 32 years old. So I would say that I am a mother with 32 years of experience and loved every single moment of it. So yes, I have to introduce myself also. So I am Dr. Nina Malik Moitra. I am a dentist. I'm an orthodontist by profession, and I've been in practice for 31 years. I have a daughter who is 32 years old. She is a director PR and she works in a very big company in US. My son, who's 28 years old, is a musician and he's in business of music. I have been in private practice for a long time, and being in private practice has made me have my own timings, which has really enabled me to be a better mother because I had time on my hands.
I so resonate with that thought that, when you're on your own, there is so much of a balance that you can maintain between your work and your personal life. And Dr. Nina, you said that you are 32 years old, 32-year-old mother, and your older one is 31 and, 32, and the younger one is 28. Both of them are in different line of work as compared to what you do or your husband, who's a chartered accountant, does. And so as parents, from 32, if I go back 32 years, that was a time where mostly parents always wanted, the children to do what their profession is or choose those streams which they have. Like you would have been a science student, right? But
Yes.
one child is into a PR agency and the other one is a musician and is in the business of music. So if you could share some light as to how the growing years of the children was, and how did you react to them choosing a profession which was completely different than what yours and your husband worked?
So, Ekta, right from the beginning, my husband and I had decided to make our children independent in their thinking. It is not easy. When we were growing up, both my parents were doctors. So there was no other option. Although I wanted to be a doctor, but there was hardly any option because a doctor's child will be a doctor, an engineer's child will be an engineer. But when our kids were born, we had decided that we will, enable them to see many more things, to experiment with many more things, and then realize what they exactly want to do. So right from childhood, like my son, who was only 4 years old, I think, he picked up his tablas and came to me and he said, I want to learn this. And I was like, really? Okay. So he learned tabla. He, in fact, gave exams in tabla. He used to play Casio. And then ultimately, he picked up a guitar and became a guitarist plus a singer. So, right from childhood, and I remember my husband's aunt, who was also a musician, and she had come to our house and she said, you know, Nina, iske haathon mein Saraswati hai, isko music hi sikhao. But, you know, we come from a middle class background. We all always thinking about backup professions. And back in those days, definitely everyone thought music cannot be a career. It can only be a hobby. Now we realize that it is not. My son says it is my profession, not my hobby. Similarly, you know, both my kids, like my daughter was a debater right from childhood. She was excellent in linguistic skills. She was multilinguistic always. My husband is a Bengali, I'm a Punjabi, and English naturally. So she could speak fluently. She would go to a Bengali household and speak fluently in Bengali. So we knew that she has a flair for languages. And as she grew up in modern school, she became one of their ace debaters because right from the sixth standard, she's a very tiny child. The first time when she debated inter school, she had to stand on a chalky because she could not reach even the podium. But she realized her potential from there. And we realized that, you know, uh, she is very good in humanities. She really was bad in maths. Maths was the bane of her existence. And can you imagine me, a science student, my husband who's a CA, my husband till now cannot excuse himself because he could not understand why my daughter does not understand figures. There was such a lot of commotion in our house because that child would score very high in other subjects, and in maths it was just 50%. And somehow in her 10th standard she finished her maths, and you wouldn't believe her principal, can you imagine that it had become such a big issue? Her principal called me on the day she was appearing for her 10th board exam maths, and I was in the PTA, and she said, Nina, maths paper is not too difficult this time. So I said, okay, then Ashna will clear the paper. And when her 10th result came out, Ekta, I cried. She had scored 90s and everything in other subjects. Maths was like in something like 55 or 56. And I said, oh my God, my child has passed. So my daughter looked at me and she said, you thought I'll fail? I said, no, maths was such a bane of our existence. And I have to tell all the parents there, you know, it is not about maths. Life is not about one subject. There's so much more to life. So, and in 11th, again, her principal called me and she said, Nina, come to the school. So I went. So she said, you know, your daughter's she's rejecting science. She's going to take humanities. That too, pure humanities without maths. I said, yes, ma'am. Please let her take it. She said, you're a doc, your husband is a CA. I said, yeah, fine. I mean, we are not running industries here that, okay, I'll get her from my chair and my child will now occupy that chair. That's not going to happen in our lives. So let her do what she, and Ekta, believe you me, she stood first in 11th standard the moment maths went out of her life. In her 12th board exams, she was second in modern school. I mean, you know, just because that one subject went away from her life, she flowered after that. She just cannot understand maths till now. Till now, also we joke about it that 2 plus 2 is 5. No, so she's like, yeah, it's 5. It's as bad. And whereas my son who was growing up and he looked at his sister and initially, because you know how younger siblings are, they love their older siblings. So he tried to debate. 1 or 2 debates he did and he forgot. Then he realized that this is not my field. Then he became a squash player, and he went up to play for nationals in squash, and he became a musician. He found his own forte. So my suggestion or my this thing is that you have to let them be. You have to let them find their own potential. Every child is born with potential. It is parents who, you know, if I had said no, you become a dentist, I know that they would have ruined dentistry. There was no way because it's hard work. Whatever you do, if you don't enjoy your work, it's hard work. If you enjoy your work is your passion, then it's fine. So
Absolutely.
that's why my husband and I decided that let them do what they want. But I always used to tell them that even if you want to be a cobbler, be like a bata. So you have to be the best in whatever you do. So that is our take on this.
True, very true. That's a very strong message that you're conveying that let the children do what they want to as long as what they need to really focus on is excelling in it. And, And I think as parents, both you and Mr. Moistra really focused on the, I would say, their strengths, rather than harping about their weaknesses. And the fact that, you could joke about it was a lot more easier for the child to understand and appreciate, and not that, oh, we're such a loser in maths. And, so I think the approach in which you convey to the child makes so much of a difference. And, you celebrated her success, even if it was 55%. But,
Yeah.
uh, she kind of exceeded your expectation. And also, Dr. Moitra mentioned about passion. And I think she's one of the very, very passionate, dentists that I have come across, who kind of would do anything to be at work. And I have, seen her how she was so miserable during the COVID time and she could not go to work. So she, is literally walking the talk when it comes to talking about being passionate about her work. So, wonderful. So, so nice to see that, both, your kids, Ashna and Akash, are doing so well in life. And so, every mother, when she looks back into her journey, uh, many times feels that, oh, these were such wow moments, or these were such moments that I wish I could have done something different. So, were there such kind of experiences that you had? Would you like to talk about some of them?
Definitely, Ekta, and you have made me go back 32 years. And yesterday I was thinking about it, pondering about it, that what is it that I have done wrong? And you won't believe, I did discuss it with both my kids that, you know what, I'm going online tomorrow and I'm going to talk about it. And they were very sweet about it. They said, Mom, let it go. You did it in good faith. So it's okay. I said, no, let me talk about it so that other people will realize what I did wrong was wrong. See, so when I was only 26 when my daughter was born, and here suddenly I became a mother, and I had just started my practice also, and it was so overwhelming. And I stay in a joint family, first child in the family, everyone is fawning over her, the grandparents, the parents, the staff. I had a very beautiful lady who used to look after my daughter. Everyone was obsessing over one little child. Now this child decided that she doesn't want to eat because everyone is hovering around her. Everyone is just telling her to eat, eat, and eat. And she didn't want to eat. So, Kekta, what I did was most disastrous thing. So everything was put in a cooker and everything was put in a mixie. And you won't believe, we went for a holiday to Manali and our cooker and our mixie went with us. And we used to put the music loud so that the hotel people cannot hear that mixie. And we would puree that food. And at that time, she was in love with Salman Khan and he was shooting in Manali. And I remember that I took that Katori and Ashna in my lap and feeding her while showing her Salman Khan. And what used to happen after that was we would force feed her and she would puke. And still, I'm a doctor, but I still didn't understand that, okay, stop. She does not want this. But this comes from my own childhood. I was a very poor eater, and my mom was a doctor. And unka bhi yahi tha, okay, now Nina can't, now Nina is not eating, so give her two eggs or that boiled eggs. And so my life was like that. So maybe I was like, okay, she has to be fed. And all the grandparents, my parents were fawning over her. So excessive attention and this feeding thing ultimately led to her aversion to food. You know, thankfully, I realized in time. And today she's a big foodie. She cooks so well. She's like a super chef. And every day she's giving me recipes. I am a very bad cook, but my daughter teaches me all that over the phone from US. And because what used to happen, she was 10 kgs till she was about 4 years old. Okay. So even if she had one illness, she would lose 2, 300, 500 grams and panic would set in. My father in law was a doctor. What is this? What is happening? The child is not eating. Now the mother will get, like me, I will get so panicky, and the father will be, I mean, my husband will get so angry with me all the time. You're trying to feed her. But so it became a very big issue in our family. And I just met a lady the other day in my clinic, and she was telling me, and I told her, stop, my daughter today wants to lose weight. Okay, she's not overweight, but she wants to be like really, really slim. But I have sometimes I tell her, we don't eat so much. No, it's okay. Can you imagine me 32 years back? I was force feeding her like mixie and cooker. and now it's the other way around. So I would really tell people, please stop feeding their children. I mean, they will eat, they will not go hungry. But this obsession about feeding was one thing that I really repent today. That, I wasted so much time. I could have enjoyed other things with her rather than feeding her.
So does
And I
that
didn't
mean
do it with,
that
and I didn't do it with my younger one. In fact, I tried it with him, but he had his own personality. He rejected it immediately. So he started eating normal food right from the age of 1 year. He never had any pureed food.
so does that mean that she didn't want to eat at all, or was she a fussy eater?
No, see, everyone is fawning over you. You're getting so much attention. Even your puking is giving you more attention. Can you imagine everyone running? Oh my God, she has puked. So that also became a big deal in our family. Everything revolved around one little child. And that child had become the center of attention. That was the thing. So when the younger one came in, I couldn't give him that much attention, I would say. Although the grandparents were there, but so he never bothered me so much. Maybe Ashna was a replica of me. I'm the oldest child in my family. And my mother used to tell me, I hope you have a daughter like you, then you will know. And the wish came true. But I would really, really tell people that, just let them be. Let them eat, just keep things in front of them and let them pick up whatever they want to eat. I used to think, okay, dal has to go in, vegetables have to go in, rice has to go in. So make everything, mash it, and give it to her, and put butter also in it, so that she gains weight. That and she would puke it out. So I think our dog became fat because of that, because he would come running.
So true, so true. We have a lot of comments coming on Facebook also. So there is a comment from Payal that we're just saying that so many moms think mothering is food centric because the older generation is so judgmental about how much we feed our kids that the nannies and daddies keep a hawk eye, which is so true. And I keep saying this that the way a parent is to a child, the grandparent is very different to that child. They are more overwhelming. They are more, protective. They pamper them more than they would do. So all the discipline comes to the kid, and doesn't get passed on to the grandchild. That's so true. And yes, negative attention is something that children really catch very fast. They know, what is it that will catch the attention of the family members and how they can benefit out of that. So that is about one aspect that you felt that was. But did it ever lead to a point that you felt that there are situations which were beyond your control as a parent, and you felt that an external help was needed for that?
Ekta, so I went through a very bad time when my daughter was 4 years old and my son was, no, my daughter was 5 and my son was just 1 year. I lost my father in a tragic road accident. And because of that, my daughter just joined school and she became very paranoid. She thought that her mother will also die. That was the kind of paranoia that she developed at that time. So her principal, her school teacher principal, in fact, she used to be my teacher also. So she said, Nina, why don't you come to school and start teaching in school? So can you imagine? I stopped my practice and I used to go to school from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock every day, 5 days a week. They started giving me 6 periods to teach also, and I love teaching, so that I can be around in the school, so that she knows that mother is not going anywhere. So because that child had become very scared, because at such a young age you see a violent death, so you become a little this thing. But yeah, then we all overcame that. And professional help, I would say that I'm one for it. Definitely, when your children are becoming adolescents, I was reading somewhere that God gives you 12 years of full of love from your children to prepare yourself for their adolescence. Because once they become 12, today 12 is also a teenager. So you see another aspect of the child. See, we come from the same. I mean, I went to the same school where they've studied, but world had changed. It had become digital, it had become Facebook, Instagram now has come, but it had become so internet and everything. Children are much more aware. So when my kids were in their teenage years, yes, I used to have a lot of problems with them. And to the point that with especially my older child, because she's a girl and she's more vocal. So we used to have a lot of tips, and it was, now I realize that it was more my shortcoming, because I didn't realize that she's grown up. I still thought that she's an extension of me, because we have grown up as uh, we have literally grown up together. Because I have spent a lot of time with my children. My practice has always come second to my children. My children have always been the first focus in my life. I used to go and pick them up from school every day, be in their PTA and everywhere. Somewhere I was a little like a helicopter mom also. I like to tell you an incident before I go to this topic. So in her second standard, my daughter, I had taught her that Taj Mahal pe aise likhna hai. Acha, so she went. Now, and one question came on Taj Mahal. So she wrote that question, and the essay she wrote was on Hawai Jahaz. So I remember from modern school to my house, I made her cry throughout. I used to drive, and the children used to be sitting in the car. I made her cry for 1 hour, because I kept telling her that I taught you to write on Taj Mahal. How dare you write on Hawai Jahaz? And then I came to my mom's house that day. We were going, and my mom was a very cool mom. She turned back and she had said, "मुर्दे लोगों पे क्यों लिखेगी वो? उसको wings चाहिए. वो हवाई जहाज पे लिख के आई है. तुमको क्या प्रॉब्लम है?" And her teacher gave her 2 marks more for that. Her teacher, I have mentioned it to her that, I got so angry. She said, Nina, I'm going to give her 2 marks more for her ingenuity. So this was another of my shortcoming, because I spent so much time with them. I enjoyed every moment with them. So I thought that they are my extension. And soon the children flowered into different personalities. And so we used to have a lot of verbal duels. And when I think my daughter was 16 years old, I realized that I would need a little bit of professional counseling, how to mentor them now, because they were very intelligent compared to us. At 16, I didn't have that much exposure or brains, or even tell my father that, look, this is my way of thinking. We used to do exactly what daddy told us. Maybe a little bit I could do, because I was a pampered first child, but normally parents were stricter at that time. So then I went, and I still remember the first day I went to the counselor, and the counselor looked like my daughter. Can you believe it? So I'm like, what are you going to teach me? I mean, you look like 16. So she said, and she told me, Nina, sit down. And I'm looking at that girl, and I'm wondering, how dare she call me Nina? Yeah, she's such a young girl. Because of her, this thing, because we were brought up in that traditional manner. And you first sitting, and I came back home and I'm talking to my daughter, and she turns back and says, Mom, did you go to a counselor? Can you believe it? That my language had become so different. How I was dealing with her had become so different, and it helped me. I tell all my friends, all my friends used to tell me, you're wasting money. Why do you do this? We can be your counselors. Your mother can be your counselor. But I'll tell you something, no one can be your counselor. A professional counselor is a different ball game. And soon what we did in our family was that counseling was no taboo word. In India, it's a taboo word. Counseling, पागल हो जो counseling के लिए जाना है. I would say पागल नहीं होना है तो counseling के लिए जाना है. You know, it just helps you. It helps you, it gives you that impetus, it gives you a push, and it helps you realize that you're not alone. There is someone who's listening to you and who is going to advise you. So I would tell everyone. And then in our family, now anyone wants counseling. It is no longer a taboo thing. We have a counselor, we have two counselors, and whoever wants a counseling at whenever, because life has always got ups and downs. Now in COVID times, I was holding my counselor's hand, because maybe once in a month I talk to her, but I know that she's there. So I would say that counseling is a thing, it's a beautiful thing. And you won't believe, every counselor has their own counselor also. I asked my counselor once, I said, who counsels you? Now her daughter is 11 years old. And she's been telling me, she's saying, Nina, now I'm taking tips from you. I'm saying, because she has seen me grow through this. So it's a beautiful thing. I would really suggest that everyone, and my that helicopter mom phenomenon at least became much less. It didn't go. I'm not saying that I became the best. I still am little paranoid. I still worry for them. I still would get freaky if my daughter doesn't pick up her phone. She's in US and I'm here. But if she doesn't pick up her phone, I still get jittery. And then I'll send her a message because if I call her again, she says, Mom, are you going mad? But it's the same with her. If I don't pick up my phone, she'll also give me a message. Why aren't you picking up your phone? So it's a good thing that ultimately you become friends with your children. You know, you go through bad times, but when your children become older, they become your best friends. Now my children are my counselors. So many times I take counseling for my own kids, and I learn all this computer right now. Also, you saw my son was helping me in this. So um, it's a beautiful journey, and since they have grown up, they've become my best friends now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So truly said that, there are many taboo that we live with and we don't want to overcome, irrespective of the fact that it harms us emotionally, physically, or mentally. So hats off to you that, you took the advice of a counselor to be able to overcome the challenges that you had. So, what kind of challenges did you face, when the kids were growing up, especially when they became teenagers, especially, staying in a cosmopolitan city like Delhi with so much of exposure, vis-a-vis the kind of exposure you would have had, as you said, that, your generation had a certain amount of exposure. The parents were very, very strict. If the parents said no, it was a no, but with the next generation coming in, it changed a lot. So how did you deal with it? And more so that, now that you've shared that you were a helicopter mom and you still are a little bit of a paranoid mother, and knowing you a little bit, you do get very worked up with things, you don't get the hang of it. So how do you deal with all of that? Or rather, let me say, how does it work with the children in that space?
So I'll tell you something that I went to a discotheque with my father. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Because in our times there were no discotheques otherwise, but they were only in Taj and Moria. I still remember there was a discotheque called Ghungru. So my father said, I'm not allowing you to go with a boy. I will take you. Imagine. Now my father taking me to Ghungru, and but things have changed so much. And even in that generation, I mean, my parents were much more liberal with us compared to other parents, but this generation was a different ball game. I mean, the clothes they wear, the way they talk, the way they conduct themselves. And I remember my husband used to go, and when my daughter was small, he would get her the smallest clothes and the cutest clothes. And then she grew up, and still she was wearing the smallest clothes and the cutest clothes. And there we were all going, "Oh my God, what is this happening?" So, but one day my daughter told me, she said, Mom, you have given us values. Have trust in your values. You cannot be around us all the time. You have taught us for so many years. And Ekta, it was such a beautiful sentence coming from my daughter. It was so reassuring. And, like I used to be like, you can't go out at night and this and that. Then, my mother, my own mother, she told me, she said, Nina, what can happen at night which cannot happen during daytime? So just trust in them. And I think I was lucky that that trust worked. I mean, it was a whole new ball game for us. That party is happening till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And anyway, I used to be awake. I used to be always awake, never slept. Whether it was my son's parties or my daughter's parties, I was awake, and I would make my little bit contribution by going and saying hi to them, and then sitting and waiting for everyone to go. And the thing is, I am like that. Even if girls come to my house, and my son who was growing up, till those girls went back home safe, I didn't have peace of mind. And I often used to wonder how come their mothers are sleeping and I'm awake. But it's a person's personal thing. So I would always feel that, and especially in a city like Delhi, you're always worried about their safety. So that is yeah. But by and large, we had a truce, and they listened to me, and I think we met 60-40. 40 was mine, 60 was theirs. We
Okay.
can never be 50-50. You have to let them be, you have to let them grow. And like they say that you have to give them roots and give them wings. So wings ho gaye to daughter to flew off to US only. And that was a very tragic part of my life, because as you can see that my children mean the most to me. Every mother says that, but I never wanted her to go, frankly. When she did her graduation from Hindu college, and I kept telling her that there are so many opportunities in India, why do you want to go abroad? But she said, no, I want to do my master's from one particular university in US. I will go there. And
Mm-hmm.
when she went, yeah, that was a very, very traumatic time for me. But thankfully for all this internet and so much of mobiles and all this thing, at least we were not out of touch, and we have made sure that we meet twice a year. So, which is a very big thing. Either she comes or we go there. So that connect is always there. But yes, that umbilical cord, that bond did snap for a while, and it's okay. She has done well for herself. She loves her profession. At 32, she's a director with a big company. So what else do we want? And she's the same person. I want to tell the people who are listening, she's the same person who doesn't know maths even till now. So it's okay. If you don't know maths, that's also okay.
Which is absolutely fine, I think. It is not necessary that just because you don't know math, so it's a big deal. Definitely not. I mean, let me share my own example. I did miserably bad in my class 12 math because I wasn't well all throughout the year, but otherwise I was pretty reasonable in maths. And who could have imagined that I would be in the world of numbers?
Yeah.
So yeah, and also I was pathetic when it came to creativity or doing art and craft. And as we were talking about it, that there is a page that I run for my daughter which is into art and craft. And now if somebody tells me that, can you make something for us? Do you have an idea? My mind works differently. So I don't think that there is anything which is very constant in our life. Things keep changing. We keep adding new things to our life. And I'm sure, and going by the topic that you chose.
So Vanya is your teacher, remember that.
Yes, of
She
course.
is teaching you. And
Yes.
I remember my sister was a very little girl, and she is an artist. So she had made some poster called Insanity is can be inherited. You can get it from your children. So in insanity also you can get from your children. But like our children are our biggest teachers.
Absolutely, very true. In fact, we had one of our guests who chose this topic, that our children are the most important teachers in our life. She shared about it, that how we also had someone who spoke that how she became more self-aware about herself once she became a mother. So so that is the whole essence of these talk shows, that we acknowledge a lot of things which we take for granted, that okay, we are a mother, it is our duty to grow our children, nurture them. But in that entire journey of motherhood, there is so much of learning and unlearning that goes along. Like tell me, Dr. Nina, that are there any funny instances while you were growing in your experience with your children, or even now, because I believe your son stays with you, and a mother who's so concerned and who is worried that, okay, whether my child is safe and all, and considering that if her daughter doesn't answer her phone, who's in the US, the son stays with you. So are there any kind of what do I say? I won't call them clashes, but are there any kind of discussion that happened with you and your son, that, all right, mom, I'm 28, let me just be the way I want to? Or how does it work between the two of you now? Because now the entire attention will be on him more so because he's closer.
Yeah. But my both my kids, I really want to say this, like I said, that I thought that they are like my extensions, because we I've gone and picked them up from school every day. I want to say one thing, that this is such an important thing, that when you go and pick up your children from school, that half an hour when the children are brimming and they want to talk about everything that has happened in school, that's such a precious time, which because of my profession I could give them. Naturally, people everywhere, I mean, if you're working, you can't do this. But because I chose to be in private practice, I could devote that time to them. So when they were growing up. So when my son was like 19, 20, that was the most difficult time, 17 to 19. Now, actually, he's very nice and very sweet. And because he's an artist, he's very, he talks very politely. But when he was 17 to 20, 19, 20, he was bad. And that time I used to ask him, okay, where are you going? Who are you going with? And when will you come back? He said, Mom, I'll answer only one question. So I had to tell him that comma, full stop. This is only one question. Where are you going? Who are you going with? When will you come back is one question. Because he refuses to answer three questions. Until now, he has this problem. 3 days back, we were playing, we play cards these days because of lockdown. We play rummy, three of us, my son, my husband, and myself. So he said, Mom, only bad thing about is you ask too many questions. Sometimes as moms, we forget. Sometimes I forget that he's 28 years old and he could have been married. And when I was 28, I was already a mother for 2 years. But since he's not married and since he stays with us, doesn't mean that I have to be. So this is my folly, that I am a little intrusive, and that is why I'm working on it. This is, work in progress. All the time, motherhood is a work in progress. All the time, you cannot be a perfect mom, but you can try to be a good mom. That's what I can think. And
Absolutely.
so my son and me, I mean, now I think that we're becoming more and more friends. But yes, he is not my daughter. Definitely, daughters and son, they have a little bit of different this thing. And actually, not even daughter and son, it's a personality. My daughter has always been a very extrovert person. My son is not so extrovert. He does not express his feelings as much as my daughter would. So it's a different ball game, and we have to appreciate the differences and deal with it in the way.
Absolutely. That is so true. So true. So you are still a helicopter mom and you are trying to move towards a lighthouse mom where you can just be there, nurture them and not
No,
ask too many questions.
no. I beg to differ now. I am not a helicopter mom now. Uh, I am a concerned mom, not a helicopter mom, because now they have grown up. They have already, one has flown the nest, the other one is ready to fly the nest. So it's okay. I mean, yes, I am trying to be less paranoid about. The problem with me is that I always think, oh my God, everything should be perfect for my children. It will never be perfect. I realize that. And like I was talking to my daughter the other day, she said, what you gave us was that whenever we fell, we knew that there is someone to hold on to. There is a cocoon. If you bruise your knees, you come back, and where we can take care of those bruises and heal it with love. Both their father and me, we have at least tried to give them that cocoon. And the children must know. When my daughter was growing up, and I used to hear about these instances when the girls run away, or they have landed into problems in unscrupulous. I always used to tell my daughter, you have any problem, come to your mother. Nowhere else. You don't have to go anywhere else, and I can take care of everything. And that was a big, she says, that was such a big thing that you did for us, because we knew that if we falter, you will be there to take care of it. So we should try to give as much as possible. And like I said, no one can be perfect, but we can always try. And one
Absolutely.
thing is that as much as possible, I always think that, no amount of love is more than enough for children. And I am a firm believer of quantity time. Quality time is very easy to say. And for me, it was possible. I could give them quantity time because I had all the time in the world. I used to work only 6 hours, and my other time was with them. But it is very important, and for a child to know that, I can call up my mother anytime. Although now my daughter cribs about it, no, but if she has any problem, 2 o'clock at night, it's my 2 o'clock. She calls me and says, Mom, you know what happened in my office today? So, and mom is supposed to hear. Mom is supposed to get her with wide eyes and, okay, Mom, Pita, now you talk. So, it should be a two-way street of communication.
Very true. So, all those who must be wondering and who know Dr. Nina Moitra, that, 32 years old mother and still learning. So that was the essence, that she's been a mother for 32 years. And even today, she doesn't say that she knows it all. She's still learning. She's still exploring. She's still making those changes that are important so that she and her children can have a fabulous relationship, which they already have. And, they are able to communicate, and that communication is not a one-way communication. They, each of them has the back of the other person. They're there, with each other. They talk. I mean, as Dr. Moita said, that she and her daughter speak twice a day. And there isn't a day, I believe, that goes by when Dr. Moistra and her daughter, they don't talk to each other. Of course, her son stays with her. And, there are such subtle things that Dr. Moistra, you have communicated, that it is important to build that trust with your children. It is important to keep that communication on. It is very important for, the mother to acknowledge that there are certain shortfalls that we have. We don't have to be the perfect mom. We have to be a good mom. We have to do the best to our capability so that our children, are becoming better human beings. I think that's the endeavor that each one of us has. And the other strong message, which, at least I take back home, and I'm sure many of us would, that highlight the strength and don't just go on and on about the weakness of the child. If math is not the cup of tea, fine, it's okay. I mean, math is not the be all and end all of everything. And so anything that you would like to convey to all the people who are listening to us today or would watch us eventually, that one message that you feel that every mother should imbibe and internalize, what would be that one message that you would say?
One message is, let them be. Let them be. They have come through you, but they have their own destinies. They will go in the directions that they want to go, and we should let them be. It's a very important thing that, we gave them the freedom to choose what they wanted. We gave them the freedom to choose the life partner they wanted. My daughter's married to an American boy, and my son-in-law is a wonderful person. And when they were getting married, my son-in-law asked me once, Mom, do you have any reservations about your daughter getting married and going so far away? I said, going so far away, yes, but not getting married to the person of her own choice. And we are no one to, stall their growth. We should be, like, see them flower, water them with love, and they will flower. They will go in their own direction. They will spread happiness all around. And one thing I would say is, let your child be happy. I have seen enough and more children who take science. Their parents want them to become doctors. They become nervous wrecks because they never wanted to pursue that field. So let them be, uh, enjoy them, spend as much time with them as possible, give them all the love. I said love is, I can vouch for it, that love never goes waste. And disciplining, okay, I agree that discipline should be there, but not at the cost of love. It is okay, the child should know their limits, but the child should always know that no matter what, that love is always there. And there is one person in this world who will love me no matter what. And that has to be the mother. And that is the one message I would give. And it's been so wonderful, Ekta. You have said such nice things also. And I wish that some people will find, and this, what I said about counseling also is a very important thing. Whenever you feel the need or your child feels the need, you must. I tell my patients so many times, because I deal with teenagers. So many times I see these children who need counseling. I become their counselor for a while, but I'm not a professional counselor. So then I give them the number of the counselors that I know, and very important. And they, so many children's lives have been saved. The suicidal tendencies go away, the drug addiction can go away just by counseling. I mean, you don't need to go to a psychiatrist who's a medical person, but just by counseling and a family counseling, so many things can be sorted out. So that is that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, Dr. Moita, thank you for sharing the journey. But, I think it would be unfair to all of us to let you go without sharing a few tips with regards to oral hygiene, and more so now that one is unable to visit a dentist because of the current pandemic situation. If you could briefly share some inputs on of oral hygiene, maybe more specific to children, it might be of help.
Yes. So I would say that please start taking your child to a dentist by the age of 3 years. Start brushing their teeth immediately after the milk teeth start coming in. And at age 3, first dental checkup should be done between 3 to 5 years. Why? You just have to go, make your child visit a dentist, let the child come and talk to us, see, look around, because when the child comes in pain, he's already traumatized. And then he sees the dentist, and because of COVID now, so we look like we are going to Mars because we are wearing so many things. I mean, I have to tell my patients that I'm Dr. Nina Moitra because they don't even recognize me. But having said that, so if you start taking your child, and never tell your child कि brush नहीं करोगे ना तो dentist दांत निकाल देगा, वहां से dentist गब्बर सिंह बनना शुरू हो जाता है. It's so bad, बेचारे हमारे पास आते हैं, they're like, oh my god, auntie, are you going to take out my tooth? I mean, why will I take out your tooth? I would like to save your tooth. So start taking your children at that age. So to make a habit, a family habit of brushing twice a day. Definitely brush at night. I mean, there is no way that the child should sleep or you should sleep without brushing at night. And from 3 to 5 years, if you take your child, then it becomes a good habit, Every 6 months, visit your dentist. Everyone, like patients will come, a 50-year-old will come in my dental chair and say, Doc Saab, I have never been to a dentist. And now he's lying in my chair and I'm telling him 10 different teeth have got such problems. And he say, oh, I've come to you. And now you're telling me, and naturally you haven't been to a dentist. And now your teeth are shaking. And now we have to only pull it out and put implants. So if you have gone to your dentist, it's like you are servicing your car. You have to service your body too. So dental oral hygiene is very important for the whole body. You can have a heart problem, you can have a digestive problem, all kinds of problems can be there if your oral hygiene is bad. And Ekta, what you said, that COVID times, no, all the dentists are taking utmost precautions. I've been working for 2.5 months now. It's absolutely safe to go to a dentist right now because most of the dentists are taking utmost precautions and nothing is going to be there. And pandemic is not going anywhere for another 6 months. So we have to decide our journey now with the pandemic.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, for sharing these basic inputs. That it is very important for all of us to brush our teeth twice a day. You should take your children, and I think if you meet a good dentist, then you are not scared of dentists. I remember I had, a little bit teeth were little on the upper side, and the doctor suggested that they need to put a little bit of a gapping in between my teeth. And we had heard enough and more stories that about my mother. She was absolutely paranoid going to a dentist, and this doctor was an army doctor, and he was talking to me and was doing whatever he had to. And in about 5 minutes he said, okay, bye bye. So I was like, but what have you done? I didn't feel anything. So he had such a smooth hand and he was talking me into it. He made me feel comfortable. And I'm sure if you go to a dentist as, passionate and as smiling as Dr. Moista, I'm sure you will forget all your pain. So thank you so much, Dr. Moista, for being with us at the Motherhood Club Talk Show. So everybody, we learned a lot of lessons from this 32-year-old mother today, and we shall be back soon with yet another interesting journey. Till then, stay tuned. And once again, thank you so much, Dr. Moitra, for being with us. It was indeed a pleasure to host you.
Thank you, Ekta, so much. You did me a great this thing because I went back in my journey and realized the good points and bad points. So thank you so much, Ekta.
I'm so glad. Please take care, and
you take care too.
I hope all is good. Thank you. Take care, and thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, and bye-bye. See you.
Bye.